What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of EJ's Press, and today we are talking about Captain Marvel. Now, if you haven't seen the first two videos in this series where I talk about Captain Marvel as a character and the lead up to the pre-sales week, then go ahead and jump back a couple videos. They are on my channel. It's YouTube at this point. Most folks, I suspect, know how to get around it. But this is going to be the third video in the series, and today we're going to be talking about the lead-up week. The week directly before the movie comes out, technically a week from yesterday to today, March 7th, the day before release. Now, sorry, I've got a notification there. Now, Wednesday, stuff got interesting because Rotten Tomatoes, the review aggregate collector who takes critical, top critical, and audience reviews of various movies, brings them together and says, okay, this is what qualifies as a fresh movie. This is what qualifies as a rotten movie. And they do so by setting anything from a 5.9 down to a 0 out of 10 is a rotten movie. Anything from a 6.0 to a 10 out of 10 is fresh. So, with that in mind, they also have a tool, or they had a tool, I should say, called the Want to See meter. And this is where an audience member, a potential audience member, could, in the weeks leading up to the movie, come in and register their opinion on whether they're interested in the movie or not. They can say, I'm interested in seeing this movie, I'm not interested in seeing this movie. They could also leave comments explaining their position. They could say, hey, I am interested in this movie because the trailers look great. I am interested in this movie because it is I love historical dramas. I'm not interested in this movie because I don't like the director. I'm not in this movie because an actor has been saying something that I disagree with. And that's where we come in. That's where our story begins. Because Captain Marvel, when the Want to See meter was first opened up for the movie, started at a 94%. 94% of people said they wanted to come see this movie. It's a Marvel movie. It makes sense. It is the movie leading up to Avengers Endgame. It is the movie that says, hey, this is who this character is that Nick Fury paged. It makes sense that people would want to come see this. Typically, Marvel movies are entertaining. Even if they're kind of substandard, even if they're, formulaic, Homecoming springs to mind, where it really didn't have a whole lot of major surprises. I was surprised by who Liz Allen's dad was. That was a nice little twist. That was fun. But other than that, fairly boilerplate movie, but still entertaining. I still had fun. It might be the first MCU movie I own other than the first Avenger on Blu-ray. So, and Captain America, the first Avenger, not the first Avengers. I actually don't own any other Marvel movies because Blu-rays are expensive, especially Disney Blu-rays. But anyway, with that being said, people were interested. People, they said, hey, it's a Marvel movie. I'm walking into Endgame. I want to know what's going on. Who the heck did Nick Fury call? We're going to learn all that in this movie, so let's go see it. Let's get the kids together. These are usually family-friendly movies. Let's grab a couple friends, get a couple beers, and go watch this movie. And then it started to drop. And there were accusations of review bombing. People saying that, people are coming out and they haven't even seen the movie and they're already saying it sucks. Based on a misinterpretation of the audience interest score. People saw it start to fall. It dropped down to 44%, and people started taking notice. Marvel movies usually don't have less than half the people interested in seeing it. People started saying, it's trolls. It's right-wing trolls who just don't like the idea of a female superhero. An easily debunked claim because Wonder Woman didn't go through this problem. Wonder Woman did not experience this kind of controversy, but the claim was made. And then it dropped again. And within the course of 3 days, it dropped from 44% when people started drawing your attention to it to 26%. 26%. That is a drop of 18% in 3 days. And I suspect it's largely because people started drawing attention to the fact that, hey, there's this way you can register whether you're interested or not in a movie. You can say whether you want to see this movie or not. And you can let studios and actors and production companies and everyone know what you're doing looks good. What you're doing does not look good. There is not good buzz about this movie. There is good buzz. There's no buzz. You can figure that out based on those scores. And people said, we don't like the way the stars of the movie have been talking to us, and we don't like the way that the studio hasn't done anything. We don't like the way the trailers look very boring and generic and poorly shot, and the CGI looks unfinished. Which, by the way, are complaints that have been leveled at DC movies as well. So that's not based on misogyny. That's based on people looking at trailers and saying this isn't something we wanted to see in a trailer. So, with that in mind, Rotten Tomatoes took a look at it. Now, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Fandango, and Fandango's president came over from Disney's board of directors. So do with that information what you will. But Rotten Tomatoes looked at this dropping score and looked at the same phenomenon beginning to happen with Star Wars Episode 9, which they had just recently as well put up for interest polling. And they said, you know what? If people don't like these movies, then we're going to take it away. And on Wednesday of last week, Rotten Tomatoes removed the want to see meter from their website. You can now no longer register and say, I don't want to see this movie. You can no longer comment on why you don't want to see this movie. You can no longer see the percent of people who don't want to see the movie compared to the percent that do. All you can do is say you're interested. You're only allowed to give very limited positive feedback to movies that are coming out now. And so now this tool that was once a halfway decent gauge of buzz generation, of audience interest, is just a way to look at it. It's been hobbled. It's been crippled because people spoke out against Captain Marvel and people spoke out against Star Wars 9. And to say that it was, that Rotten Tomatoes came out and said this was a plan we've been having for months and months, and we didn't want to, people have been confusing it with the actual audience score, and people think it counts as a review. That's not true. The only people who were saying that were the same people who were accusing regular folks who didn't want to see the movie of being Russian bots or trolls or hackers. So it also, if you wanted to do away with it, just stop putting it up on movies from here on out. Just don't include it in new movies that start coming out, and don't do it at a time when 2 movies from the studio your president used to work at are getting paddled. But, it felt a little hinky. And then on Tuesday, which is very kind of cutting it close to the wire. It's not quite Batman v Superman close to the wire, where it was the day before the movie came out, but it is only one day before that. Batman v Superman, the critical reviews, the pre-reviews were released on Wednesday. Captain Marvel, they were released on Tuesday. And let me tell you, if a movie is advertised as heavily as Captain Marvel is, and the embargo is lifted as late as Captain Marvel was, or as Batman v Superman, it's a comparable situation. Batman v Superman a little more extreme. But regardless, if the advertising is as heavy as it was for Captain Marvel, and the embargo is as late as it was, that's generally a sign of poor faith in the movie. That means that the studio doesn't know if it's going to do well. They want people to be thinking exciting things, and they don't want people to be hearing from people who've already seen it. But anyway, with the critical reviews being released on Tuesday morning, it started out looking pretty okay. Rotten Tomatoes started at a 91, and then it started to drop. And even that 91 was a little bit misleading, because if you look at Metacritic, which is another review aggregator, but rather than using audience and critic scores and looking at just fresh versus rotten, they actually average out critical scores and give you the percent that the average score equals. And the Metacritic score started at a 68%, which means that 91% of reviewers, when they started dropping those reviews, said it's basically fun. But the vast majority of those didn't get very far past a 7. If you looked at the list of critical reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, there was a 90, there was an 88, an 84, and then we had some low 70s, and then a whole lot of 60s, where it was just barely fresh. And the reviews were all saying very similar things. They were all saying that the actress's performance is wooden. Brie Larson is an unemotive character who doesn't engage with the rest of the cast, who spends most of the movie entirely unfazed and the rest of it annoyed. It plays for laughs the idea of another character leaving her child behind to help her fight a war. It places tremendous importance on a cat in a superhero movie. Who cares about the cat in a superhero movie? It generally said, it's basically fun. It's a standard Marvel origin story, so make of that what you will, but don't expect great things. And the other thing it said, which is something I think we all could have predicted based on the way the buzz was going, is, hey, there's a lot of girl power in this movie. There's a lot of the unstoppable woman. There's a lot of the Mary Sue to Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, who doesn't really, who faces adversity with contempt, who is bored or unimpressed by all the changes in her life. This is a woman who, if the plot synopses I have read is correct, starts life as a human, thinks is blown up in an experimental aircraft test, thinks she's an alien when she wakes up, finds out she's a human, and then goes back to space. Now, I don't know about you, but I would be freaking out if that happened to me. I would not be okay. I would not be looking at the world like, really? You want me to do this for you? You can't take care of your own problems? I'm a hero. I'm not just a warrior, I'm a hero. I'm a warrior hero. And by the way, when she says that, all that comes to my mind is Yoda's line in episode 5. Wars not make one great. But, and apparently we haven't learned that lesson in 30 years. But anyway, these critical reviews were coming out, and they were not very positive. And of course, there was a reaction on social media. A lot of the sites and social media figures who had backed the movie, who had said that everyone who's hating on this is just a misogynist, started doubling down. They started saying, hey, nope, it's all men. It's all white men. All the negative reviews are coming from white men. And the Mary Sue, I believe, was the publication. And yes, there is an extreme leftist nerd news outlet called the Mary Sue, unironically, as though it's a good thing to be a Mary Sue, I suppose. Or maybe they are doing it ironically, and they're taking our word for their boring, unengaging, uninteresting characters and trying to turn it against us and then just proving us right. I don't know what is going on there, but anyway, these I think it was the Mary Sue that came out and said, don't worry, guys, all the negative reviews are from white men. And within 15 minutes, the comments were just flooded with screenshots of negative reviews from women. And women who had reviewed it who said, I didn't like it. So the accusations were there. And there were positive reviews, however. There were positive reviews. I don't want people to think, watching this movie, this video, I don't want you to think that no one had fun in this movie. However, there is a definite split, just like I predicted a video ago, where there are going to be reviewers who focus on the messaging, who focus on the politics behind the movie, and there are going to be reviewers who focus on the actual movie itself. There is a split. The people who really love this movie, who are saying it is the greatest thing since sliced bread, it cured their grandmother's leprosy, and it brought freaking Queen Victoria back from the dead, all praise it for being about an empowered woman who goes out and kicks the men's butts. And all the critical reviewers who actually look at the quality, all the qualitative reviewers say this is a woman who faces no adversity and also spends the entire movie following orders. That's another thing that came up, and it's interesting parallel to Rey from the new Star Wars movies, as an aside, who also is a character who has no flaws. The only flaw she is said to have is that she cares too much, and she is entirely without agency. She is presented as a strong woman with her own decisions. She never makes them. She always does what someone else tells her to do. And it seems like, according to a lot of the critics I've read, a lot of the reviews, don't just take one review as gospel, by the way. Read a lot of them. But a lot of the reviews I read said similar things about Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, that she is simultaneously presented as empowered and unstoppable and no one can tell her what to do, and has no agency and does nothing for herself. So take those claims with a grain of salt. Remember that you are the final judge on whether you think a movie is good or not, but understand that there is a split critically right now over whether Captain Marvel is good or not. And it falls down to people who were looking for quality and people who were looking for social justice. So apparently it very well fulfills social justice. So if that's what you like in movies, you'll love Captain Marvel. But if you like well-told, original, risk-taking superhero movies, you're not going to be a fan. So that's kind of what's happened. Again, this movie comes out tomorrow. Technically, it's been released to the public tonight. Most theaters will start showing it around 5 or 6 p.m. Tonight, and have, what used to be the midnight showing is now at 6 because people don't like staying up that late. And I guess they think maybe fewer smelly nerds will show up for a 6 o'clock showing than a 9 o'clock showing, or a midnight showing. But regardless, the idea is these characters are not, these social media characters are not happy that the majority of people say it's fine. It's basically fine. If you can stomach a higher concentration of McGirl power than usual, it's fine. So that is the events of the past week in relation to Captain Marvel. That is where we stand now as I am recording. I did just get a notification that was from a channel I follow who had gone out to see one of those videos. So I'm going to watch that video and I'm going to see what the hubbub is. I'm going to see whether that channel liked it, whether that channel agrees with the critics who think it's fine, whether that channel agrees with the critics who think it's a bad movie, whether it agrees with the critics who think it's a good movie. It's just going to be another way for me to gauge that for myself. So again, educate yourself going in. Pay attention to what happens around the movie because that's going to affect the way it behaves. For example, the Russo brothers, in response to the controversy, said that Endgame does not hinge on this movie. Carol Danvers is currently the central figure, as far as the central heroic figure, if the plans continue, but you don't need to see this movie to watch it. So even their own directors now at Marvel have kind of lost faith in the movie. And there is now a rumor, and I stress rumor, I have no idea if this is true. So don't take my word for this. I've heard it from 3 or 4 different sources now that are usually pretty good at predicting things, but they've been wrong before as well. So don't take my word as gospel, but there is a rumor now that there is a second ending to Avengers Endgame, either in filming now or that has been filmed, where it is Captain America and Black Widow who take down Thanos, which I think is great. One, because I love those characters in their Marvel Cinematic Universe versions, and two, because it's ironic to have the two least powerful characters bring down the biggest bad of this century, really. Ever since Darth Vader, we haven't had a villain with quite as much reach as Thanos, and I really like that. So I would like to see the dramatic irony of the unpowered characters bringing him down. I want to see the characters I have loved for 10 years now bring him down. And I would like characters who have been with us for a while bring him down, rather than a newcomer who has no place, who's not earned our respect and our love. And even there has been some rumblings of dissatisfaction with other Avengers cast members who share the same feeling, who feel like she hasn't worked for the position she's being given in the story. So that might have an effect as well. So keep an eye out. Watch out for reviews. Watch out for social media kerfuffles. Watch out for the movie. Watch out for Captain Marvel, because in 6 weeks we get Endgame. That's a very short grace period between Captain Marvel and Endgame. There will probably be movie theaters showing them next door to each other. So you could ostensibly go see Endgame, and if you decide, you know what, maybe I do want to learn about Captain Marvel, just hop into Captain Marvel. And don't tell anyone you didn't buy a ticket. Don't take it from me. I worked at a movie theater. I would never ever advocate screen hopping, but if you come out of Endgame and say, I want to learn more about Captain Marvel, because they're so close to each other, there's a good chance you won't have to go very far. It'll be right there. The door will be open, or at the very least unlocked, and there will probably be an empty seat. So, yeah, what do I know? I'm just rambling on. Did you enjoy listening to me ramble on? Then go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It'd really help me out. Thanks.